Okay, so we finished Sloka 1, and I hope everybody remembers that there are 9 namas in Sloka 1. So Vishwam, Vishnuhu, Vashatkaraha, Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhuhu, Bhutakrit, Bhutabhrit, Bhavaha, Bhutatma, Bhuta Bhavanaha. So there are 9 namas. So from that, we have moved into Sloka 2. And I believe we have done the sloka too, so I'll chant it just one more time and we'll read the meaning for it. We'll understand the meaning. And sorry, one second. Okay. And then we'll just read the meaning before we go into sloka 3. So I'm thinking like, we'll probably do one sloka, read the meaning, and then go to the other sloka instead of doing like, I've also thought about, or maybe I should just do 5 slokas, chanting first, and then go to the meaning. So we'll try this, and based on feedback from you all, we'll change the format if necessary. So the second slokam would be Putatma Paramatma. We also talked about cha being just and is inserted where necessary to make sure it is Anushtup Chandas. So cha is not counted as any namam. So Muktanam Paramangatihi is one nama. Then Avyayaha is one namam. Purushaha is another namam. Sakshi is one namam. Kshetrajnaha is one namam. Akshara is the other namam. So how many do we have? Bhutatma, Paramatma, Muktanam Paramagatihi, Avyayaha, Purushaha, Sakshi, Kshetrajnaha, Aksharaha. So there are 8 namams in this one. Bhutatma Paramatma cha Muktanam Paramangatihi, Avyayah Purusah Sakshi Kshetrajnokshara eva cha. So that is one way of chanting Anushtup Chandas, and I always, mess it up if I'm starting in the middle. विश्वं विष्णुर्वषट्कारो भूतभव्यभवत्प्रभुः भूतकृद्भूतभृद्भावो भूतात्मा भूतभावनः भूतात्मा परमात्मा च मुक्तानां परमाङ्गतिः अव्ययः पुरुषः साक्षी क्षेत्रज्ञोऽक्षर एव च. So that's our chanting rhythm would be that one, the second one. So we'll read the meanings for each of these now. Bhutatma. So it's the pure self. So the first one we have discussed about the universe, the cosmos, and how Bhagavan is the Srishti, Sthiti, and Layakarta. Now we are talking about the attributes of Paramatma. So the first thing is Bhutatma. And it's very important to understand when we are talking about Srishti, Sthiti, and Samharam, these have to be done with the gunas. So, in order to create the universe, Bhagavan needed Rajogunam. In order to maintain the sthiti, Sattvagunam is required. In order to do the destruction, the Laya, he would need the Tamogunam. But does that mean that he is also tainted by these gunas? That's why the immediate next namam clarifies that for us, and it's the misconception is removed for us, and it says no, he is Bhutatma. Any gunas that he gets, he actually takes it due to his sankalpam. He gets that attributed to himself and performs those actions, but he doesn't have those innately like humans we do. So that's what Shankaracharya classifies here for us. Clarifies here for us. The reader might infer from the namas Bhutakrit that sorry that he is attached to gunas like sattva, rajas, and tamas. To remove this misconception, this name is here introduced. The Shvetasvatara Upanishad says he is the absolute, devoid of all qualities and all attributes. His attachment to these gunas is brought about by his own wish. Okay, now we are moving to the next namam, which is the Paramatma. So the supreme self. So Param, there are two things. There is Para and Apara. So Para is the higher, the supreme dimension of what exists, and the Apara is what we see. So in Purusha, Purusha Suktam, there is this specific term that says, like, Tripadurdhva Udait Purushaha. So there are the Bhagavan has formed himself into the universe, the manifested, the what is visible, that universe is only 1/4 of himself. There are three other quarters that are the unmanifested form. So who is that Paramatma that is being described here? Paramatman, he who is beyond cause and effect and is eternal, pure, absolute consciousness and free. So the next namam then is Muktanam Paramagatihi. So what it says is, for all those people who are seeking mukti, he is the Paramagati. So he is the Paramagati of for all of those people. So the supreme goal of the emancipated, because those that attain him never return to birth. And they actually are referencing to, like Adi Shankaracharya references to Bhagavad Gita, sloka 8, 8th chapter, 16th sloka. He says, having reached me, O son of Kunti, verily one knows birth no more. And these kind of slokas do appear, I think, quite a lot. I don't even have a number. A lot of slokas in Bhagavad Gita talk about how to attain the supreme goal and how that can be achieved through various activities Bhagavan prescribes during in Gita. Then Avyayaha is the next namam, the second line, the unchanging, Avyaya. So Vyayam is to expense, to spend. And here we are saying Avyayaha, the unchanging. So he is the indestructible, and he is undecaying, immortal, and indestructible, is what Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. So, and we have learned this in science too. So they say matter and energy are interconvertible, but it can. So what's the rule? Sorry, I keep talking about it very often, and now I forget.
It cannot be destroyed.
Correct. So there are two aspects of creating the universe, or maybe three aspects. One is the consciousness, the awareness that through mere sankalpam the universe has been created. And in Vedanta, the example that's given is when we go to sleep, and he didn't like need materials and all of that, which we have studied in the first when we were talking about Vishwam, right? When we go to sleep and when we have a dream, we really did not need a lot of material. So based on the previous experiences, based on what we know, sometimes even those we don't know, like deja vus. So just by mere sankalpam, he has created this universe. But despite creating it, he is not being destroyed, or he is not decaying because of it. It's and not easy expanding. So it's more about like the same quantity will remain, and he is not. He's undecaying, immortal, and indestructible is the explanation for that. The next namam is Purushaha. So there are quite a few meanings. The regional languages have taken Purushaha to be like Purusha to be men. But the actual meanings, there are 3 or 4 different meanings for Purusha. One is somebody who lives in this body. So the body is called as Puram. And in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan calls it like the Navadware Pure Dehi. So that the body with the 9 orifices. So the one who lives in the Puram is called as the Purushaha. So here it is described, he that reclines, shete, is to recline, to sleep, in the body. Or Mahabharata says, since the great self pervades and resides in this holy city, the body, with 9 gates, possessed by these organs like senses, etc., he is called as the Purusha. I believe there is another beautiful Asit pura purvameveti vigraham krutva vyutpaditaha. So that is the meaning of the what was given in Mahabharata. And there are other meanings to it. By a permutation of the letter A into A, it would give this meaning, namely, he who existed, Asit, before Pura, which means that he is the first to exist and not somewhere in between. So he is the original form of existence. I indeed existed here before as I existed before. I am called Purusha, is what Taittiriya Aranyakam says. Because he resides in the excellent ones, the Purus, Sajjanaha. That is also the reason. So there are three meanings now that have been given. One is that who lives in in the Puru, the body. That is why he is Purushaha, or sorry, Puri is the body, and that who lives in Puri is the Purusha. Second meaning is that which existed even before anything was created. That's why he's also called Purusha. And because he resides in Sat Purusha, so that's why he is also called as the Purusha. And the last meaning is because he destroys the forms of the world during Pralaya, or he pervades, and resides in everything. So that's why he's also called as Purusha. The next namam is a fantastic nama, Sakshi, the witness. So the derivation, like there is something called as vyutpatti in Sanskrit. Basically, it's definitions of where each of the words, etymology, where the words have been derived from. So Sakshi has been derived from Sakshat Ikshate iti Sakshi. So what does that mean? Somebody who directly views, directly sees, is Sakshi, the witness, because he cognizes by his own awareness everything directly with no veil in between. According to the Panini Sutra, which is what we were just reading, the Vyutpatti Sakshat Ikshate. So think about the new universe that has been created, and and think about the one single God particle is what science calls it. And with a big bang, the whole universe with billions and billions of galaxies was created. And we can attribute which is what science actually thinks about, that it is all science and technology. So but there is an awareness that is behind all of this, and that consciousness, just like we are conscious, we are aware. Whereas if you look at any of the non-living or inanimate objects, they are not aware. There is a difference between the two. So what exists now has to have been existed before the universe started. If everything is undecaying, everything is non-changing, it can only convert from one form to the other. But then in that case, all knowledge, all existence, all particles, all atoms that exist now should have existed in that original God's particle, including the awareness that is in us, that should have existed then, in which case that God's particle should have been aware and conscious. So if that is the consciousness, so when we watch, are we not viewing everything? So are we not being the Sakshat Ikshate? We are also directly viewing. So Bhagavan is viewing through us. So he, in this particular namam, you're saying he is the witness to everything, and he is a direct witness. Then the next namam is Kshetrajnaha. Kshetram is the body. Jna represents knowledge. Jnayati, jnanam, all of those mean knowledge. So somebody who is the knower of this body is called as Kshetrajnaha. The direct translation that's been given by Shankaracharya and later by Ananta Krishna Shastri ji into English, the knower of the field, because he cognizes Jna, this vehicle called Kshetram. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, understand me as the knower of the field. Bodies are called kshetras as he knows them well by his yogic powers. He is said to be the kshetrajna. So there was this example. So first we have to understand who we really are. When I say I, what does that really mean? So we say my hands, my eyes, my body, my mind. In which case, who is that my? Because my is a possessive pronoun. So who is that me that possesses all of these things? I possess eyes. I have my eyes. So I'm still saying my. So who is that me that is enclosed with this body and mind and the sense organs? That me is the knower of this body, mind, and sense complex. Was that complicated? Do you need me to explain that a little bit more?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Uh, and there is also an example. So somebody takes a car and he has a very long drive to go to, and he travels in that car for, say, 16 hours in the day. At the end of the day, now he has to get off, and he feels that the car is part of him and he can't leave it. That's exactly the kind of example that's given to us, because this body is supposed to be a vehicle for us to go through the punya and papa karma phalas that have accumulated over many janmas, called the sanchita karma, and whatever we are currently having to face in this lifetime, that would be the prarabdha karma. But what happens in this cycle is we try to get used to this body and call the body ourselves, call the mind ourselves, instead of thinking this to be a vehicle that is just helping us get from this birth, the start of the birth, till our death. And hopefully, if we have done enough punya karmas, maybe there won't be a next janma. So that's what Hindu philosophy believes in. So we try for that moksha. So obviously the four purusharthas that everybody knows, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So ultimate goal is that freedom. And I have to specifically mention here, for those who may not know, moksha is generally misinterpreted as something that we will get after death. But there is something called as Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. By having the knowledge of who we really are and how to utilize our vehicle, this body mind sense complex, the BMS complex is what we say in short, utilize this vehicle to get us through this phase. Uh, that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yes, if we gain that knowledge, then we are knowledgeable enough and we have freedom and liberation in this birth. And that's what's called as Jivan Mukti. And that Mukti is Mukti from seeking, Mukti from, oh, I'm seeking happiness. I'm looking for this larger home in order to be happy. Or I'm looking for a new fancy car so I can be happy. Or and my Guruji, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, actually gives, like, beautiful examples. He says somebody is trying to get married to be happy, and then on the other hand somebody else is trying to get divorced just to be happy. The same thing. And he also gives multiple other examples. In my childhood, I could have listened to this particular music and I would have been happy with it, probably a rock or something. And now when I listen to it, it just gives me headache, and I want to listen to a completely different music. So what gives us happiness changes continuously and we keep seeking it. So Jivan Mukti is essentially um, stopping to seek and enjoying the self, because the happiness lives within us. And how is that? Because when we talk about consciousness, which is what we actually are, our awareness, it is the Sat Chid Ananda Brahma, Sat, Chit, and Anandam. So Anandam is our very nature. And there are some Sanskrit terms that I would bring up, just sounds technical. But what they say is, when you think about fire, there is an attribute, uh, heat is an attribute of fire by the very nature of it. And similarly, if you have a potato, the very nature of potato is not to be hot. It's like, it's a room temperature. But when you put it in, say, hot water, it will become hot. But after, if you bring it back from the hot water, after some time, it'll cool down to the room temperature. So when it is hot, it is not its natural attribute, but it is an attribute that it has acquired. So therefore, it's an acquired attribute. So what we are trying, our natural attribute is to be happy, but we are trying to acquire it from outside sources. And that's not necessarily going to work, because every time that happiness and what we are seeking will change. And that seeking becomes a habit, and that's what we continue to call, like, the hamster wheel is what my analogy for that is. So somebody who knows this body, the awareness itself, that's the kshetrajnaha. So I hope that was clear. The last namam for this sloka is aksharaha. Ksharaha is again decaying. And we also, like, I want to mention one small thing here. Akshata is what we call when we do the puja with rice. Akshata, there is a specific meaning for it. It is unbroken rice. So Ksharaha is something that is broken, that is decaying. Here we are saying Bhagavan is Aksharaha. So the same Kshetrajna is the undecaying supreme self, or Akshara is from the root ash, to enjoy. The word only, eva, in the text denotes that there is no real distinction between the Kshetrajna, which is the knower of the field, and the undecaying Akshara. In Chandogya Upanishad, we have learned that Tattvamasi, and the word and indicates that the only difference between the two in the former being phenomenal currency of sense is authoritative. So the Mahavakyas in the Vedas, I actually have to mention that there are many, 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 many Mahavakyas, and we know primarily four. So they are Prajnanam Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Ayam Atma Brahma. So these are taken as sample Mahavakyas with, like, short sample Mahavakyas. From each one comes from a different Veda. So Chandogya Upanishad says that you are the Brahman. And the only difference then is the nature of so maybe I should give examples that Adi Shankaracharya quotes these examples a million times in all his books. He'll nail it into our head until we actually understand it super clearly. So I'll give the examples that he provides. One is the gold and the ornaments. So I can have a bangle, a chain, or a bracelet or something. But the ultimately what connects all of these things is the gold that it is made of. So I could be Shri, I could have somebody on the line, Mini Nayarji, Lakshmi ji, Jayaraman ji, but we are all individuals made out of the same material, the energy, the matter, and being aware due to the consciousness. So the thread that connects all of us is this consciousness. I could be this human being in this form and shape, and this lamp or this iPad or anything could be made of the same material, the same atoms, the same panchabhutas. And I have the consciousness, and they have limited consciousness. Again, we'll talk about why inanimate objects and things like that when we go into a few future namas. Ultimately, we are all made up of the same thing. There is a thread that connects everything. So, the only difference though between the Paramatma and the Jivatma is Paramatma has that authoritative Vyavaharika Drishtya. We are a little different in the sense of I cannot go and create a universe, but the consciousness in me would have had to create this universe, therefore I am conscious. Does that make sense? Any questions, any thoughts? Please feel free to share the thoughts. I'm not the only one that is supposed to be sharing here. We are all students. Please share if you have any thoughts before we move into the next sloka. Okay. So the next,
Oops.
did somebody want to share any thoughts?
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know how to answer.
Go ahead. Sorry, we can't hear you now. Maybe you're muted.
Yeah. Can you hear now? Is it
Yes.
Bhuta? Yeah. Is it Bhutatma or Bhutatma? Because I'm joining only today.
Okay, no worries. So first slokam, if you see, I think it would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, eighth namam in the first sloka is bhutatma with a emphasized bhu, not bhu. And the first namam of the second sloka is putatma with the p.
Okay, because my text that I'm having has a B, so
Mm. So that's
okay.
something that I actually wanted to mention before the class starts. Because of the when we translate these, when we write these in regional languages, there could be some languages where we don't have the right alphabet to represent what needs to be said. So in that case, please do correct it. It's important to pronounce as much as our human effort could go to pronounce it really well. So the first letter of the second sloka is Putatma. I believe, in some regional languages, the and the are almost the same. Ka and gha are the same. So I'll be mentioning it. So please make note.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, we'll move into the third sloka now. So yogaha, yogavidam, neta, pradhana purusheshwaraha. So Pradhana Purusheshwaraha is one single namam if you want to do commas there. So Yogaha, Yoga Vidam Neta is one namam. So we'll do the nama split first and then we'll do the word split so it is easier for us to chant properly. So Yogo, Yoga. So when I say Yogo, it's in the sloka, it is Yogo. But the actual namam, because of the Sandhi rules, it becomes Yoga. But the actual namam is Yogaha. So Yogaha, Yogavidam Neta, Pradhana Purusheshwaraha, Narasimha Vapuhu is one nama, Shriman Keshavaha, and Purushottamaha would be the last one. So how many do we have? Yogaha, Yogavidam Neta, Pradhana Purusheshwaraha, Narasimha Vapuhu, Shriman Keshavaha, and Purushottamaha. So there are 8 namas in this sloka. I
I think you said 7. It comes to 7. Can you just go back again? I mean,
Sure. Yogaha, Yogavidam Neta, Pradhana Purusheshwaraha, Narasimha Vapuhu, Shriman Kesavaha Purushottamaha. You are right, it's 7. Sorry. And mind you, I think something else that occurred to me, so I'll share it as just information. So the number of slokas in Vishnu Sahasranamam is exactly 108. And there are so many significances to the number 108 because the 9 is considered the Purna number and 108 actually adds up to 9. And there are 27 stars or the major stars in constellations in this in our astrology, and each star has 4 padas: first padam, second padam, third padam, and fourth padam. So if you multiply 27 times 4, it gives us 108. So each of these slokas also has a significance that for every star, for every padam, there is one sloka. So for example, my nakshatra, my star is Shravana nakshatra, which is also considered the Vishnumurti's nakshatram. So I would have a particular sloka for the my birth star, and for my birth padam, that would be considered my specific sloka. So if you can chant the full Vishnu Sahasranamam every day, even if you chanted that one sloka and ended with the Sri Rama Rama Rameti, which we will learn and in the Phalasriti, that actually gives you significant benefits until obviously not as much as doing the full 108 slokas, but it's considered very auspicious to do that, just FYI. So would it be of interest to specify what nakshatra and what padam when we are doing each of those slokas? Would that be benefit for anybody?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So the first sloka when we did Vishwam Vishnurva Shatkaro, that one is for Ashwini Nakshatram, first padam. So we start with Ashwini, and each sloka, the next, like following three slokas. So sloka 1, 2,
1
3,
minute.
4 are for Ashwini Nakshatram, first padam, second padam, third padam, and fourth padam.
So, want to interrupt over here. So, when you said Ashwini, I know you all are saying from your side because from Malayalam calendar we say Ashwadi. Is that correct?
I am
Ashwadi.
assuming so. Yeah, I like to some degree I have to be thankful. Telugu actually follows exactly the Sanskrit astrology and the Chandramanam. So I believe it's called Ashwini, but I can Google it and find what it is.
Yeah, I can confirm.
Yeah,
Yes, it is Ashwati.
Ashwati. Okay, then that's fine. Yeah.
yeah, and I might just actually just out of interest, I'll probably find the Sanskrit, Malayalam, Tamil version. There, Tamil names are also a little different, so I'll find that and I'll post it.
Thank you.
Okay. So now that we have done the word split for this, I'm hoping like because this is one of those easiest, not many sandhis in it. So we'll just do a quick word split. It shouldn't be too difficult. Yogo, yoga vidam, neta, pradhana with a emphatic second dha, which I will call moving forward as mahaprana. So the alpa prana is the, mahaprana is
Can
dha.
everybody mute, please? I can't hear.
Okay, sorry, I'll mute everyone.
The audio.
Okay, I hope that's okay. Yeah. So I'll be using the terms alpa prana and mahaprana moving forward. Alpa prana is like in the ka, kha, ga, gha, na. Ka is the alpa prana and kha, the second one, would be the mahaprana with an emphasis. So in this case, when we are saying pradhana, it is the mahaprana the, not the regular the. And it is also not the. It's not the, it is the. Pradhana Purusheshwaraha. And I was trying to emphasize in the Gita chanting class that there is a difference between Sha, Sha, and Sa. So here we get an example of both. Purusha, Purusheshwaraha. I hope you're able to catch that subtle difference. I actually intend to post something on how to pronounce those two because that tends to get confusing, especially when we use English and there is only one S for everything. So I'll just write it down as homework for myself to post it. So here, please pronounce it differently. Purusheshwaraha, Narasimha Vapuhu, Shriman Keshavaha, Purushottamaha. But the visargas in between don't get pronounced. The last one, absolutely, we have to pronounce it. Otherwise, there's a possibility that it could become a feminine gender. So I have to now remember the exact rhythm that we would be doing this in. Yogo, sorry. Yogo, Yogavidan, Neta, Pradhana. I'm still getting the other one. Pradhana Purusheshwaraha, Narasimha Vapushriman. Instead of the Visarga, we'll do an extra emphatic sh, which is with the Shri. Narasimha Vapushriman, Keshava Purushottamaha. So there'll be a H kind of sound between Keshava and Purushottama. But at the end of Purushottama, we will say Purushottamaha with the Visarga for those after Purusheshwaraha and Purushottamaha. I hope that's clear. Who would like to chant after me?
I like to do that.
Okay.
So when we start, you said yogo, so it is yogaha. Yogoha.
The namam itself is yogaha, but when we chant in the sloka, it has to be yogo.
Okay.
Okay. Yogo, sorry. Yogo, yoga vidam neta.
Yogo yoga vidam neta.
Pradhana purusheshwaraha.
Pradhana purusheshwaraha.
Narasimha vapush Shriman.
Narasimha Vapu Shriman.
Keshavah Purushottamah.
Keshava Purushottamaha.
Keshavah Purushottamah.
Keshavaha Purushottamaha.
Yeah, we won't break them as two different namas. We'll just add an extra emphatic H after Keshava, and it'll be Keshavah Purushottamah.
Keshavaha Purushottamaha.
Yeah, awesome. So I'd like to actually figure. I have to do a bit of homework to make sure because I was trying to break these into the two 8-syllabled. Now I'm actually like missing out on my actual way of chanting, which irritates me a bit about myself. विश्वं विष्णुर्वषट्कारो भूतभव्यभवत्प्रभुः भूतकृद्भूतबुद्भावो भूतात्मा भूतभावनः भूतात्मा परमात्मा च मुक्तानां परमां गतिः अव्ययः पुरुषः साक्षी क्षेत्रज्ञोऽक्षर एव च योगो योगविदान्नेता प्रधानपुरुषेश्वरः नारसिंहवपुः श्रीमान् केशवः पुरुषोत्तमः. That's how it's supposed to be chanted. That would be our ultimate goal. But when I'm actually trying to do it like for somebody to chant after me, I'm having to break it 8 syllables and then I'm just changing the rhythm, which I will fix it after this class. Are we good to move to doing the meanings, or do we want to do? Yeah, I think we've got 7 minutes. So we'll do the meaning for this sloka. Hopefully, moving forward, we'll be able to. Is this space okay with everyone, or is anybody in a rush and we should probably speed up and do more slokas?
I think, next time, that's my feeling. I'm thinking is that we don't have to rush it, but at the same time, I'm thinking is little more space finish up the other stanza and then explain about there is so much to go through, correct?
Yeah.
And so many stanzas, but at the same time, we need the meanings too, which you're beautifully explaining to all of us, and even the breaking of the words. So I was thinking is that, if all others also agree that we can, because the time is very short, because by the time you explain, it's by the time it'd be already into 5 minutes or 7 minutes. So I'm thinking is that why don't you do 3 stanzas and then explain the meaning and print it so that at least a little faster, not very fast at least. That's what my thinking. I don't know about others.
Yeah. Does anybody support that?
I think this piece is pretty good. I think like we are learning the meaning properly as well as like we learn to chant it properly. So I'm okay with this way. I won't because perhaps we not get the meaning
Yeah.
and the
I'm
pronunciation
yeah.
also.
I'm also okay with this way because what
I am
happens is
also
sometimes when we have like 3 stanzas, we may kind of lose the connection of,
yes,
so I
I
thought
am
it's better to drill it this way in our brains. Thank you.
Okay.
yeah, I am also okay with this.
Okay.
Because you're explaining it so beautifully and like we are able to visualize whatever you're saying and it connects with me. I don't know about others, but like I'm perfectly fine and I think we should go slowly with this so that we understand the meaning when we are chanting. So thank you. Like I really appreciate what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Devi ji, the speed which you are going is perfectly fine. And especially we all are really enjoying the way you're connecting it with Gita and all the Upanishads too. Because as you're saying all the notes, I'm making notes to myself too. So I'm really enjoying it. I would stick with the same timing if I have a
Well
preference.
said, Shajiji. Well said.
Okay.
I also totally agree with this.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear that feedback. And no, we are all studying together, right? So if you at any time feel like, oh, there's something that we could improvise our experience during this time, please don't hesitate to chat me or talk to you. This is all like in a friend group, and I am so open to feedback and anything that can make our experience in this together really well. So feel free to chat me. If you don't want to speak here, that's totally fine too. Even if you want to send me a personal message, please do that. So we'll go through the meaning for this one now. So yogaha is the first namam. Yogaha is, oh my God, this is an important meaning. And we know, like, yoga unfortunately is now called asanas are called yoga. But it is only a very small portion of the holistic view of what our Maharshis wanted to teach us. If you take Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Patanjali is an amazing Maharshi, and he has taught us Ashtanga Yoga. So, in which the first two are Yama, Niyama. So, Yama are what are the absolute like must do's. So there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, which are like promises, like your rules and regulations that you should follow, the top 10 things that one should follow. This includes like speaking satyam, brahmacharyam, and all of those. So I won't go into detail. The third one is asanas, which is the one portion that the Western world has caught and made it so popular. So yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Those are the 8 of the Ashtanga yogas. So, what Patanjali wanted to give us is Ashta Anga. So, there are 8 parts to getting into the union. And when we say union, what does that mean? Right? And the way it is explained to us, whether it is in Vedanta, whether it is in Sri Vidya, whether it is in yoga, Hatha yoga, all of those. Ultimate goal for us is to understand our supreme the reality, who we really are, and that is achieved. We are the jivatma. So it almost feels like in the children got separated, or the child got separated from the parent. Now they have to get united with that parent. So when the universe was created, we got separated into like different entities. So one has become multiple. And now each of those P's doesn't see the correlation. It's almost like, a glass has broken and there are so many pieces, but it has all come from one glass, isn't it? So each of those individual pieces, like our individual entities, we miss the connection between us all and us with the Supreme Paramatma. So the yoga actually has these two concepts, but the ultimate goal is to the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam, but the Paramatma is all around us. So how do we what are the ways that we can find to figure out, to understand Bhagavan, see Bhagavan in everything that we see, and be in a union with everything else? So here, this namam is very specific to getting that aikyam. So there are sadhus that I know, some siddhas, who just do japam of this one namam. And so I won't go into more detail on that, but it's a very important and a very beautiful namam. The ultimate goal of what we do as, like, the achieve, what we come here to achieve. Yoga, the union. So the realization of oneness of the individual and the supreme spirit by keeping under control the senses of cognition together with the mind is called as yoga. He, Vishnu, is the yoga because he is to be reached by means of it. So he is what we are trying to connect with. So the ultimate goal, here's where I think the triputi is what we call it. So the knower, the knowledge, and the known, they're all the same. There are no 3 different things, and this is the whole philosophy of Advaitam. So in this, we actually separated 2 things as the Jivatma and Paramatma. Sorry, Jivatma and Paramatma. Now we are trying to put those 2 together, and that union is the Yogaha.
Can you repeat that once again? The know, the known, the
No,
knowledge, and the
knower.
Okay. Thank you.
Somebody who is trying to know, somebody who what is to be known. So the subject, object, and the means, the instrument to know that object.
And that's called Triputi, right?
Triputi, yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries. And that's where all the Tripura Sundari, Tripurantakeshwara, all of those namas do come from that Tripura. Three. The I think that's where we have to conclude because it's 9:47 and we have to prepare for our Lalita Sahasram class. So we'll conclude it here and we'll go into the next set of namas next week. So I'll conclude with a short prayer. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वं श्रीमन्नारायणचरणारविन्दार्पणमस्तु सनातनधर्मः सदा प्रवर्धे वेदनादः सर्वत्र प्रगर्जे भगवन्नाम संकीर्तनं सर्वान् परिरक्षे सोहम्. Thank you so much for joining. We'll catch up next week for Vishnu Sahasranamam. If you're joining Lalita Sahasranamam, we'll join at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.